Sometimes in the midst of all the loving, praising the Lord, and energy and laughter the children around me seemed to exude, I forgot that these children had been orphaned, that they had horrible sorrow and tremendous pain in their pasts. One day, I was reminded. 6-year-old Derek, a shy little boy with the face of an angel, fell and bumped his head. He looked so determined not to cry. Here, children are taught to be big and tough. But against his best efforts, tears began to flow. I pulled him into my lap, and almost as quickly as they had started, the tears stopped. But what was left, the sorrow in those eyes beyond the tears, I will never forget. The eyes that peered out of that 6-year-old face were 100 years old, and had seen more tragedy in their short lifetime than most ever will. I was filled with grief for this beautiful boy. I cradled him in my arms, a child who had seen his parents and siblings killed and had more than likely been forced to kill others himself in the war in northern Uganda. This child had known what it meant to be truly starving, to be totally lost, to be utterly hopeless. And in that same moment of sadness, I was blown away by the greatness of our Lord, by the fact that God, in all his mighty plans, had cared enough for this child, had cared enough for me to put us together in that moment. The God who created the heavens and the earth knew that on a rainy day in Uganda, a little boy would bump his head, and the pain would be deeper than just that bump. God had put me in just the right place and given me the privilege of loving this child, gently rubbing his back and holding his hand in a way he had not been loved in a long time, if ever. By the grace of God, I was blessed with the gift of being able to hold and hug this child, eventually tickling him until those sorrowful eyes brightened a little, and Derek threatened to erupt with laughter. We sat there like that for quite some time, and Derek never spoke. When I asked him if he wanted to go play now, he shook his head and looked at me with a face that read, "No. Can I stay here forever?" And when we finally got up for dinner, those big brown eyes were full of gratitude. God reminded me again that day that I have one purpose in Uganda and in life, and that is to love. I could ask for no greater assignment. Even though God reminded me in powerful ways at times, like on that day with Derek, that I was called to Uganda, there were still times in those early days when I wondered, why me? Why would God choose me to do this? But as I think through my life, I see how blessed and loved I have been. I think it is only normal that God would ask, even require, me to share this love with others who may not know it. Luke 12:48 says, "From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded, and from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked." And I have been given so much. So this is why my everyday, crazy, chaotic life seems so normal. It is simply an ongoing, ever-changing result of what it looks like to try to love like Christ in my life. This is the spot on the map where God has asked me to do the things I do. Like pour out my heart for children who are hungry or alone, to try to help people leave harmful work and learn skills that will help them care for their families, or to assist women who are struggling to raise their children alone. This is the place where I am supposed to follow Jesus, obey him, and make my best effort, with his gracious help, to treat people with dignity and care for them unconditionally. To say yes to each and everything he asks of me, to each person he places in front of me.